Snow swirled under the streetlights, a damp, silent flurry over the deserted streets of Seattle. Ethan Hayes tugged the collar of his wool peacoat against the biting Puget Sound wind, his footsteps muffled on the wet, snow-dusted pavement. For a man who ran a tech empire worth billions, these late-night walks were his only true solace, a tether to the young dreamer he was before the money, before the success, before all the choices that led him here. The watch on his wrist read 9:47 p.m. The temperature had plunged earlier that evening, clearing the usually bustling streets of Capitol Hill. Ethan cherished this quiet, so rare in a city constantly buzzing with innovation. It was in these moments that he could let the mask slip, not the relentless CEO of Aerovision, not the billionaire splashed across tech magazines, just Ethan, 35 years old, carrying the weight of his regrets. That was when he heard it, a low sob, almost swallowed by the howl of the wind. Ethan stopped, his senses sharpened by the night stillness. The sound came again, this time joined by a childish whisper. "Do you think he'll help us, Mia?" "He has to help, Mia. Mom needs—" Turning toward the voices, Ethan felt his heart lurch. There, partially cloaked in the shadows of a recessed doorway, stood two girls, identical twins. They couldn't have been more than 5 years old, their thin jackets clearly no match for a night like this. Their small faces were flushed from the cold, tiny noses sniffling as they huddled together for warmth. "My God, what are you doing out here on a night like this?" Ethan instinctively moved closer, already unfastening his coat to offer it to the children. The girls exchanged a look, a silent language passing between them before the one on the right stepped forward, holding something out in her trembling little hand. "Please, sir, could you buy this? Our mom is sick and needs medicine." The object dangled from the small girl's fingers, catching the light from a nearby street lamp. Ethan leaned in to get a better look and felt as though all the air had been violently punched from his lungs. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. But there it was, the ring. Not just any ring, but that ring. The blue sapphire, framed by tiny diamonds set in a delicate white gold band with Art Nouveau details. The ring he had picked out 6 years ago, saving for months while his startup was just a dream-taking shape. The ring he gave to Olivia on a night not so different from this one, under a light dusting of snow near the University of Washington campus, back when he was at the start of his run. The ring Olivia had been wearing the last time he saw her. Where did you get this?" His voice came out hoarse, almost unrecognizable. The other girl stepped forward, her big, pleading eyes fixed on him. "It's our mom's. She doesn't know we took it, but—" Her voice faltered, tears welling. "She's so sick. We heard her crying last night because she didn't have money for the new medicine." Ethan stared at the girls as if in a trance. Now that they were closer, under the direct light, he could see their faces clearly. The shape of their eyes, the delicate line of their chin, even the way the one on the left gently bit her lower lip, gestures and features so painfully familiar that his chest constricted. A flashback hit him like a freight train. Olivia at a small jeweler in Fremont, her eyes shining the first time she saw the ring. "It's perfect, Ethan," she had whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face as he dropped to one knee right there in the middle of the shop. The jeweler had tried to show him more expensive rings, more appropriate for a rising tech entrepreneur, but Olivia wouldn't even look. "This one has your soul in it," she'd said. "I can feel all the love you put into choosing it." "What are your names?" Ethan asked gently, fighting to keep his voice from breaking. "I'm Chloe," said the girl on the right, still holding the ring. "Mia," murmured the other, inching closer to her sister. "And your mom." "What's her name?" The girls hesitated, years of warnings about strangers clearly weighing on their young minds. But there was something in Ethan's eyes, a mixture of pain and hope that seemed to connect with them on a level they couldn't understand. "Olivia," Chloe finally answered. "Olivia Carter." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Olivia had kept her maiden name. Olivia was sick. Olivia had daughters. Twins. Twins who would have been conceived right around the time he left for Silicon Valley to launch his company. Twins who had his eyes, Olivia's smile, and an age that made his heart pound with a possibility he barely dared to consider. A particularly sharp gust of wind made the girls shiver violently, pulling Ethan back to the present. Questions and revelations could wait. Right now, 2 children were freezing in front of him, desperate enough to steal their mother's engagement ring. "It's too cold out here," he said, finally able to move. He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around the 2 of them, who immediately burrowed into the warm, heavy fabric. "There's a cafe nearby. How about we get some hot chocolate while we talk about how to help your mom?" The girls glanced at each other, that silent twin communication flowing between them. Chloe still clutched the ring tightly. "Mom said not to go anywhere with strangers," Mia declared, though her eyes betrayed how tempted she was by the idea of hot chocolate. Ethan felt a sad smile touch his lips. Olivia had always been protective. Of course, she would teach her daughters well. "You're absolutely right. How about this? The cafe is right over there. We can see it from here." He pointed to the warm, inviting lights of a coffee shop on the corner. "It has big glass windows, and everyone can see inside. I promise we'll just talk about how to help your mom. Nothing else." Another moment of silent communication between the twins. Finally, Chloe held out the ring again. "Are you going to buy it?" Ethan looked at the jewel that once represented all his hopes and dreams. "Yes," he replied softly. "I'll buy it, and I'll make sure your mom gets all the medicine she needs." The girls' smiles were identical and radiant, making Ethan's heart ache with a searing familiarity. As he gently guided them toward the cafe, keeping a respectful distance yet close enough to shield them from the wind, his mind raced with the implications of that night 6 years ago. He had chosen ambition over love, convinced he was making the right, mature choice. Now fate had conspired to bring back not only the symbol of that love, but also its living, breathing consequences in the form of 2 little girls who wore his features mixed with Olivia's. The snow continued to fall, but Ethan hardly felt the cold. His world, so carefully constructed over the last 6 years, had just been shattered by a chance encounter on a winter's night. And as he watched the twins approach the illuminated cafe, he knew his life would never be the same again. The Pike Place Cafe was one of those timeless spots, with weathered wood floors and exposed brick walls, where the aroma of freshly roasted coffee and cinnamon rolls mingled with the welcoming warmth that enveloped Ethan and the twins as they stepped inside, leaving Seattle's icy night behind. "You can choose where you want to sit," Ethan said gently, watching the girls, still dwarfed by his expensive coat, look around in wonder. Chloe and Mia chose a booth by the window where they could watch the snowflakes swirl under the streetlights. A waitress, a young woman with a friendly smile and a constellation of piercings, approached with menus. "3 hot chocolates, please," Ethan ordered before they even sat down. "And could you bring some cinnamon rolls with extra frosting?" He glanced at the twins, who nodded enthusiastically. While they waited, Ethan couldn't take his eyes off the girls. Chloe had Olivia's determined air, the way she lifted her chin when she spoke. Mia, though quieter, shared with her sister that penetrating gaze that seemed to see right through people, exactly the way Olivia did. Memory hit him like a wave. 6.5 years ago, Sozalo Library at the University of Washington. You're taking up my favorite table." Ethan looked up from his coding textbooks, meeting the most intense gaze he'd ever seen. The girl in front of him held a stack of literature books against her chest, her brown hair in a messy bun, a few strands escaping to frame her face. "Sorry, I didn't see your name on it," he'd replied, a playful grin tugging at his lips. Very funny. She rolled her eyes, but a smile threatened to break through. "I've been sitting here for 2 years. It's the only spot with the perfect lighting to read Austen. Well, I've been programming for—" He checked his battered watch. For 14 hours straight, so I think I've earned rights to this table today. She raised an eyebrow, letting the smile finally appear. 14 hours? That explains your zombie look. Hey, some of us have to work hard to keep our scholarships. Something in his tone must have sounded more bitter than he intended, because her smile softened. Without asking, she pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. Olivia Carter, she introduced herself, extending her hand. Ethan Hayes, he replied, noting how his rough hand from Odd Jobs contrasted with her delicate one. So, Ethan Hayes, how about we share the table? You can keep being a programming zombie, and I'll read my Austen. Everyone wins. That was how it began. Are you okay, sir? Mia's voice brought him back to the present. The waitress had arrived with the hot chocolates and cinnamon rolls, and the twins were watching him curiously. I'm fine, he smiled, sliding the plate toward them. Go ahead and eat. While the twins devoured the rolls with the hearty appetite of their age, Ethan plunged back into his memories. 6 years ago. Your parents are going to hate me, Ethan muttered, adjusting for the 10th time the cheap tie he'd bought specifically for the dinner. Olivia laughed, fixing the tie he had just messed up again. They just need to get to know you better, to see the brilliant, determined man I see. But Ethan was right. The dinner was a disaster. Olivia's father, a renowned lawyer, barely disguised his contempt for the scholarship student who worked as a valet. Her mother, a prominent figure in Seattle's social scene, spent the entire evening making veiled remarks about the importance of the right connections and maintaining family standards. Olivia cried the whole way back to her dorm. They have no right, she sobbed on his shoulder. They have no right to judge what we have. That night, Ethan promised himself he would change his life, not for her parents, but for Olivia, to give her everything she deserved. The following months were a whirlwind. Ethan juggled his studies, 3 part-time jobs, and the development of his first app. Olivia was his rock, his constant. On the nights she found him asleep over his laptop in the library, she would gently wake him with coffee and a kiss. When he doubted himself, she reaffirmed her faith in him. The proposal was nothing like he had planned. It happened on an ordinary afternoon when Olivia showed up at his tiny dorm room with homemade soup because she found out he had a cold. "Marry me," he said, his voice husky from the flu, still in his worn pajamas. Olivia froze with the spoonful of soup halfway to his mouth. "What?" "I know I don't have much to offer right now," he continued, pulling a small, worn-out box from the drawer beside the bed. "But I have love, determination, and a promise. I promise I'll build a bright future for us." The ring was simple, a small sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. It had taken months to save up for it, collecting every tip, every extra hour. "It's perfect," Olivia whispered, tears rolling down her face as he placed the ring on her finger. "Absolutely perfect." "Mr. Ethan," Chloe's voice brought him back. The cinnamon rolls were gone, and the girls were sipping their hot chocolate, their cheeks flushed from the warmth. "Yes, sweetheart? Are you really going to help our mom?" Ethan felt his heart tighten. "I will, yes. You can trust me." "Then you have to come meet her," Mia exclaimed, excited. "She'll be so happy." Ethan hesitated. "Not today, little ones, but tell me where she lives so I can help." The girls exchanged uncertain glances before Chloe took a napkin and asked the waitress for a pen. With the irregular handwriting of a 5-year-old, she wrote down an address in Capitol Hill. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Ethan insisted on paying for a taxi to take the girls safely home, gave them enough money for Olivia's medicine, far more than the ring's value, and stood watching until the taxi disappeared into the snowy night. Only then did he allow himself to be completely overwhelmed by his emotions. 6 years ago. "It's the opportunity of a lifetime, Liv." Ethan paced back and forth in his tiny apartment, waving the email in his hands. "The investors love the app. They want me to go to Silicon Valley immediately to start developing the company." Olivia sat on the only chair in the apartment, the engagement ring shining on her hand. For how long? 6 months? Maybe a year at most. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "After that, we can truly start our life together. No worries about money, no more hiding from your parents. A year is a long time, Ethan. It'll fly by, you'll see. And on weekends, I'll come back to see you. I promise." But they both knew it was a hard promise to keep. The startup would require total dedication. Olivia tried to smile, but her eyes were brimming with tears. "You have to go," she finally said. "It's your dream." The goodbye at SeaTac Airport was bittersweet. Olivia kissed him as if trying to memorize every detail, the sapphire ring sparkling under the fluorescent lights. "I love you," she whispered. "Go out there and conquer the world." It was the last time he saw her. In his penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Union, Ethan grabbed his phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Ray, it's Ethan Hayes. I need your services." "Yes, it's urgent. I need you to find out everything about an Olivia Carter, last known address in Capitol Hill." He gave Ray the address Chloe had written. "I want to know everything. Financial situation, medical condition, history of the last 6 years. And, Ray, be discreet." Hanging up, Ethan walked to the glass wall of his apartment. Down below, Seattle continued its eternal dance of lights and shadows, the snow now falling more softly. In his hands, the sapphire ring caught the city lights, each facet telling a different story of young love and ambitious dreams, of hard choices and deep regrets. And now of 2 little girls with eyes too familiar to be a coincidence. That night, Ethan Hayes, the billionaire, the tech titan, the man who had everything, couldn't sleep. His world had been turned upside down by a chance encounter on a snowy night, and the implications both terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. Somewhere in Capitol Hill, 2 little girls raced home with money for their mother's medicine, and Ethan knew his life would never be the same. The past he had tried to leave behind was about to catch up with him, and this time he wouldn't run. The snow kept falling over Seattle, covering the city with a white mantle of possibilities and second chances. The door of the small apartment in Capitol Hill creaked open, and Chloe and Mia burst in, their faces lit up with a joy Olivia hadn't seen in weeks. "Mom! Mom! We did it!" they shouted in unison, jumping excitedly. Olivia stood up from the worn couch where she was grading school papers, her pale face marked by the chronic fatigue of the past few months. "What did you do, my little ones?" Chloe took an envelope from the pocket of her thin jacket and held it out proudly. "Money for your medicine, Mom." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. How did you get that?" The twins exchanged looks, that silent communication they always seemed to share. Mia bit her lip, a gesture Olivia recognized as a sign of nervousness. We sold that pretty ring you kept in the drawer," Chloe finally confessed. Color drained from Olivia's face, her hand instinctively flying to her neck, where she used to wear the ring on a chain when the girls were babies. The sapphire ring. You sold it?" "Sorry, Mom," Mia whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. "But you were crying last night because of the medicine, and we wanted to help." "To whom?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling. "Who did you sell the ring to?" The girls looked at each other again. "A really nice man," Chloe answered. "He wore a fancy coat and bought us hot chocolate." "You went with a stranger?" Olivia's voice was thick with panic. "No, Mom, he was really nice," Mia protested. "We stayed in a cafe with big windows where everyone could see us, and he gave us a lot of money, more than we needed for the medicine." Olivia sank onto the couch, her legs too weak to hold her. That ring was her last connection to... She shook her head, pushing away the memories. What was his name? The twins frowned, thinking hard. "We don't remember," Chloe admitted. "But he had kind eyes, Mom, like ours." Olivia felt her heart tighten at those words, but before she could ask more, a familiar dizziness washed over her. She closed her eyes, taking deep breaths, trying to steady her irregular heartbeat. On the other side of the city, at the same moment, Ethan was in his office at the top of the Arrow Vision Tower when Ray Maxwell arrived, carrying a thick folder. The private investigator, a middle-aged man with keen eyes, looked more serious than usual. "I have the information you requested about Olivia Carter," he said without preamble, placing the folder on the glass and mahogany desk. Ethan took a deep breath, bracing himself. "Tell me." "It's not good," Ray began, opening the folder. "Olivia Carter, 34 years old. Elementary school teacher, works at 2 different schools to support her twin daughters, Chloe and Mia, age 5. He paused meaningfully. "There's no father listed on the girls' birth certificates." Ethan's heart pounded, but he kept his expression neutral. "Go on. She was diagnosed with a serious heart condition about 4 years ago, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's a genetic disease that causes the heart muscle to thicken. There is treatment, but the medications are expensive, and the basic health plan she has through the school doesn't cover everything." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, guilt consuming him. The apartment is small, 2 bedrooms in an old building in Capitol Hill, 3 months behind on rent. The landlord has been understanding due to her medical situation, but her routine. Ray glanced at his notes. She wakes up at 5:30 a.m. to get the girls ready for school, teaches at Lowell Elementary from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then she goes straight to John Muir Elementary, where she teaches until 6 p.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she also tutors privately in the evenings to make ends meet. And the girls? They stay at Lowell, where Olivia got them a scholarship. After that, an elderly neighbor looks after them until Olivia comes home from her second job. Ray hesitated. "Sir, there's one more thing. The doctors are worried. The stress of her routine is worsening her heart condition. In her last appointments, tests showed—" "That's enough," Ethan interrupted, his voice raw. He stood and walked to the glass wall, looking out at the city below. "How much does she owe in total? Hospital bills, rent, everything." Ray quoted an amount that, to Ethan, was equivalent to what his company earned in a matter of minutes. For Olivia, it was a mountain of impossible debt. Once Ray left, Ethan remained motionless for a long time, absorbing everything. Olivia, his Olivia, was sick, working herself to the bone, raising 2 girls alone. 2 girls who had his eyes, born less than 9 months after he left. The weight of reality struck him like a punch. They were no longer just suspicions. The dates, the similarities, everything lined up. Chloe and Mia were his daughters whom he had never met, who had grown up without a father while he racked up billions. His daughters, who the previous night were shivering on a Seattle street trying to sell an engagement ring to buy medicine for their mother. Shame and guilt consumed him. How could he simply walk into their lives now? What right did he have after 6 years? Olivia had chosen not to tell him about the pregnancy. Maybe she hated him. Maybe she would never forgive him for leaving. Ethan sank heavily into his chair, the sapphire ring in his pocket weighing on him like an anchor of memories and regrets. He needed to help, there was no doubt. But how to do it without causing more pain, without forcing his presence into the life Olivia had built with such sacrifice? The answer came as a whisper of conscience, anonymously. He could use his influence and resources to help them from a distance, ensuring they never lacked anything again, that Olivia received the best medical care. It was the least he could do, a chance to atone for years of involuntary absence, to ease the suffering his departure had caused. Grabbing the phone, he began making calls, first to his lawyer, then to his accountant. A plan began to form in his mind, a way to help Olivia and the girls without revealing his identity. As night fell over Seattle, Ethan Hayes, the man who had built a tech empire, faced the greatest crisis of his life. Somewhere in Capitol Hill, two girls who carried his blood slept peacefully, unaware that their father had just discovered their existence. And Olivia, the woman he had never stopped loving, battled a disease that might have been properly treated had he been around. The weight of these revelations crushed him, yet also spurred him to action. Tomorrow he would begin his plan of anonymous assistance. For now he let himself feel the pain, the regret, and a renewed love that threatened to break his heart. The New Dawn Foundation is pleased to inform you that your application for medical assistance has been approved. Olivia reread the letter for the third time, her hands trembling slightly. The letterhead was elegant, professional, but something felt off. She had never applied for assistance from any foundation. In fact, she had never even heard of it. All your past medical expenses have been paid, and a fund has been established to cover your future treatments. Across town, in his office at the AeroVision Tower, Ethan reread his lawyer's confirmation email. The foundation had been set up in record time, with all the necessary documentation to look like a legitimate organization of many years. The money was already being transferred, debts paid, arrangements made. "Everything is ready," Mr. Hayes, his assistant, Jessica Chen, informed him. The principal at Lowell Elementary confirmed receipt of the winter donations. They'll be distributed this week, with priority to the neediest families. Ethan nodded, his mind returning to the image of the twins shivering in the cold that night. Never again. His daughters would never again be cold. At Lowell Elementary, Chloe and Mia could hardly believe their luck when they were called to the principal's office. "These are for you," the principal, Ms. Albright, smiled, handing them 2 boxes. Inside were new, high-quality raincoats, waterproof boots, hats, gloves, and scarves. "But how?" Chloe began, stroking the soft fabric of the blue coat. "An anonymous donation," the principal explained. "A few families were selected to receive these gifts." Mia hugged her pink coat to her chest. "It's like magic, just like the angel with the ring." Ms. Albright frowned. "Which angel, dear?" "The nice man who bought our ring and gave us money for Mom's medicine," Chloe explained enthusiastically. He had kind eyes. And Ethan, watching the scene through the security cameras on his tablet, strategically installed after a donation for security improvements at the school, felt his heart ache. The girls called him an angel, if they only knew. A memory flashed. 5 years ago, Silicon Valley. "Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. AeroVision is officially a billion-dollar company." Champagne popped around him, executives and investors celebrating, but Ethan felt only a vast emptiness. His augmented reality app had revolutionized the market, the company's stock had soared, and he was now officially one of the richest men in the world. That night, alone in his newly purchased penthouse, he held his first iPhone, a gift he intended to give Olivia when he returned victorious to Seattle. But Olivia had disappeared. Her emails went unanswered, her old number didn't exist anymore, and her parents refused to give any information. If only he'd known she was pregnant. His phone's ring brought him back to reality. It was the secretary from John Muir Elementary, the second school where Olivia taught. "Mr. Hayes, the school supplies just arrived. They're really impressive. Make sure every student gets their kit," he instructed, especially those in Ms. Carter's classes. In the weeks that followed, the plan unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Olivia regularly received letters from the New Dawn Foundation about her treatment. Her doctors, now the best cardiologists in Seattle, though she didn't know they had been specially hired, reported a significant improvement in her condition since she'd started taking the new medications provided by the foundation. The twins came home every day amazed at the coincidences happening at school. Today, it was a new set of professional-grade colored pencils that the school decided to provide. Tomorrow, a fully subsidized educational field trip. The following week, an improved meal program in the cafeteria. Olivia watched all this with a mix of gratitude and growing suspicion. Her instincts told her something else was going on, that so many blessings at once couldn't be mere coincidence. But when she saw her daughters happy, well-fed, and properly dressed for winter, she decided to swallow her doubts. One afternoon, as she was grading papers at her desk at Lowell, a fellow teacher approached excitedly. "Olivia, you won't believe it. Remember that problem with the roof in your classroom? The school got a specific donation for structural repairs. Your room will be the first to be renovated." Olivia put her red pen down, a worried crease forming between her eyebrows. "Nancy, don't you think it's strange? All these donations, the mysterious foundation paying my treatment?" Nancy shrugged. "There are good people in the world, Olivia. Maybe it's time to accept that you deserve good things too." In his office, Ethan watched their conversation through the cameras, now with audio, after another donation for improvements. His heart hurt every time he saw Olivia, every time he noticed how much healthier she looked now that she was receiving the right treatment. Another flashback hit him. 4 years ago, New York. "Mr. Hayes, you've just been named one of Forbes's 30 under 30 most influential people." The article called him a tech genius, visionary, revolutionary, citing his cars, properties, and achievements. But sitting in his penthouse overlooking Central Park, Ethan could only think of Olivia. Where was she? Did she watch his TV interviews? Was she proud of him, or did she hate him for leaving? If only he'd known about the twins. The intercom on his desk buzzed. "Mr. Hayes, your lawyer is on line 3, Ethan answered, still watching Olivia through the cameras. "The monthly transfers to the foundation's account are automated," the lawyer informed him, "and we arranged that private clinic spot you requested in case her condition worsens." "Great." Ethan hesitated. "And the apartment?" The landlord received a generous offer for the entire building. Once the sale is finalized, the new management will conveniently not raise her rent for the coming years. Ethan hung up, satisfied. Every detail had been planned, every need anticipated. It was the least he could do, even from a distance. On his tablet, he watched Chloe and Mia running across the schoolyard in their colorful new raincoats, laughing, carefree, as 5-year-olds should. Olivia crossed the yard, her face no longer pale and sickly, as if the direct link to her improved medication gave her more energy. She stopped to watch her daughters play, a gentle smile on her lips. Ethan touched the screen softly, as if he could reach her through the glass. How much longer could he keep his distance? How long until the urge to hug his daughters, to explain everything to Olivia, became too strong to resist? For now, he would have to settle for this, being an invisible guardian angel, ensuring that his family, because that's what they were, even if they didn't know it, never went without again. That night, in his lonely penthouse, Ethan held the sapphire ring against the light, the same ring 2 brave little girls had tried to sell to save their mother, the same ring that years ago symbolized a future he threw away for ambition. Now that ring represented a second chance. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day, when the time was right, he would find the courage to reveal the truth. Until then, he would continue his silent vigil, protecting from afar the 3 most important people in his life. Across town, in the small Capitol Hill apartment, Olivia fell asleep with her daughters nestled against her, one on each side. The girls wore new, warm pajamas, gifts from the school. On the table, the latest letter from the New Dawn Foundation waited to be opened. In her dreams, Olivia returned to that night 6 years ago when she decided not to tell Ethan about her pregnancy. If only she had known then what she knew now. But the past was the past. The present, with all its mysterious blessings, was what mattered. And somewhere, invisible yet always present, a guardian angel watched over them. An SUV pulled up discreetly a block away from Lowell Elementary School. Ethan adjusted his sunglasses, observing through the tinted glass as Olivia got off the bus, her 2 little colorful butterflies, Chloe in blue, Mia in pink, skipping beside her. "Have a good day, my loves," he heard her say through the audio system he'd had installed strategically. Olivia knelt down, adjusting their hats, her face reflecting that unconditional love he remembered so well. "Behave, all right?" "Yes, Mom," the twins chorused, hugging her before running inside. Olivia watched until they disappeared, and only then did she let her shoulders slump, the mask of strength giving way to evident fatigue. She checked her watch. She had exactly 20 minutes to cross town to her second school. Ethan watched her limp slightly toward the bus stop. The medical report on his desk had mentioned that her heart condition sometimes caused swelling in her legs. She should be resting, not running from one job to another. Inside the school, through cameras that now provided full coverage of the building, Ethan kept track of his daughters. Chloe sat in the front row, always raising her hand to answer questions, just like he'd been in school. Mia, quieter, doodled in the margins of her notebook between notes, her sketches showing surprising artistic talent. "Exactly like her mother," he murmured, recalling the drawings Olivia made in the margins of her literature books 6 years ago. "You have to stop drawing in my programming books," he'd complained, but he was smiling. Olivia only shrugged, continuing to transform flowcharts into elaborate works of art. "I'm making your studying more interesting. Look, this while loop just turned into a carousel." The sound of laughter brought Ethan back. On the playground, Chloe was organizing a group of children for an elaborate game that seemed to involve princesses and dragons. Mia, slightly apart, was comforting a classmate who had fallen down. "They're born leaders," Jessica Chen commented, handing Ethan more reports on the girls' activities. "Chloe has your natural charisma, sir. And Mia has her mother's heart," Ethan finished softly. At John Muir Elementary, Olivia was trying to stay awake during her last class of the day. Through the cameras, Ethan could see how she occasionally placed a hand on her chest, taking deep breaths. The new medication was helping, but stress and exhaustion still took their toll. "Ms. Carter?" Another teacher entered the room after the students left. "The principal wants to see you." Ethan turned up the audio, his heart beating faster. Had Olivia discovered something? "Olivia," the principal began as soon as she walked in, "have you looked into this New Dawn Foundation?" "I tried," Olivia said, sitting down tiredly. "But it's like chasing a ghost. The website is professional, the paperwork is impeccable. But there's something odd. It's like it appeared out of nowhere, specifically to help you." Olivia nodded, biting her lower lip, that gesture Ethan knew so well now, mirrored by Chloe. "And it's not just the foundation," she continued. "It's all these donations at the schools, always benefiting my classes, my daughters. The renovations, the supplies, even that new lunch program." Ethan made a mental note to make the donations less obvious, more widespread. Olivia had always been too perceptive. That night, after checking through the security cameras that Olivia and the girls had arrived home safely, Ethan allowed himself a moment of weakness. He opened the drawer of his desk, taking out an envelope. They were photos of the twins he had printed from the recordings. Chloe giving a class presentation, her eyes shining with the same intensity as in old photos of his younger self. Emily comforting friends with that gentle smile that was an exact copy of Olivia's. His daughters, his precious little daughters, whom he watched through lenses and screens when he should be there, hugging them, helping with homework, telling bedtime stories. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Hayes, the board is waiting for the video conference." Ethan put the photos away, straightened his tie, and opened his laptop. Within minutes, he was discussing multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions with executives worldwide. But his mind was in a small apartment in Capitol Hill, where two little girls were probably doing their homework while their mom graded a pile of school papers. Later that night, his driver dropped him off near Olivia's building. From inside the car, he watched the lights on the third floor. Shadows moved behind the curtains, the girls likely getting ready for bed. A memory hit him. 6 years ago. "When we have kids," Olivia had said, snuggled in his arms on a study night, "I want them to have your eyes and your smile." "And your brilliant brain and your gentle heart," he'd replied, kissing her forehead. The lights in the apartment went off one by one. Ethan remained there, sitting in the dark, wrestling with the overwhelming desire to climb those stairs, knock on that door, and finally hug his daughters. But what right did he have? Olivia had chosen not to tell him about the pregnancy. She had built a life without him, protected and raised their daughters alone. His sudden entrance now could cause more harm than good. Even so, with each passing day, it became harder to keep his distance. Every smile on the recordings, every moment of Olivia's weariness, every tiny discovery about the girls' personalities and talents, everything pulled at him like an invisible magnet. "Home, sir?" his driver asked after nearly an hour. Ethan nodded reluctantly. Tomorrow would be another day of silent observation, of distant protection, of withheld love. Another day pretending his heart didn't reside in that simple Capitol Hill building with the three most important people in his life. In his pocket, the sapphire ring seemed to burn, constantly reminding him of past choices and future possibilities. For now, he would continue his quiet vigil, ensuring his family had everything they needed, even from afar. But how much longer could he remain only an observer of his own life? It all started with a cough. Mia got it first, during recess on a particularly cold afternoon. The next day, Chloe also showed symptoms. Within 48 hours, the twins were burning up with fever. 102, Olivia murmured, looking worriedly at the thermometer. Chloe's forehead was far too warm under her hand. In the bed next to her, Mia coughed incessantly, her little face reddened by the effort. "Mom," Chloe called in a weak voice, "you can't miss work because of us." Olivia swallowed the lump in her throat. Her 5-year-old daughters, already worried about things children shouldn't have to think about. "Don't worry about that, my loves. Now close your eyes and try to rest." Across the city, Ethan watched the scene through cameras he had installed, a security system donated to the building. His heart clenched with every cough, every time Olivia checked their temperatures with trembling hands. "Jessica," he called his assistant over the intercom, "get in touch with Dr. Rodriguez. Tell her I need a house call, urgently, an address in Capitol Hill." "But sir, Dr. Rodriguez is a celebrity pediatrician. She doesn't do house calls. Offer whatever it takes." 2 hours later, a knock on Olivia's door made her heart jump. Through the cameras, Ethan saw her open it, confused to find one of Seattle's most renowned pediatricians. "Ms. Carter?" "I received a notification from the hospital about your daughters, part of our new home care program." Olivia frowned. She hadn't contacted any hospital. But before she could question him, Mia had another particularly hard coughing fit, and that quickly took precedence. The doctor examined the girls thoroughly. "Influenza A," she diagnosed, already separating samples of medication she'd brought along, and by the sound of that cough, it's starting to develop into bronchitis. "Doctor," Olivia hesitated, "I can't possibly—" "Everything's already covered by the program, Ms. Carter, including the follow-up visits I'll make in the coming days." In his office, Ethan watched everything, mentally noting each detail of the prescribed treatment. But his main concern now was Olivia. Even through the cameras, he could see how pale she was, how her breathing seemed more labored than usual. The next morning, Olivia tried to get ready for work, but her legs barely supported her. "Mom, don't go," Chloe pleaded, her voice raspy. "You're not well." "I'm fine, sweetheart, just a little tired." "But you're breathing funny," Mia observed between coughs. Olivia ignored the growing pain in her chest. She couldn't afford to be sick, not now. She'd already missed 2 days taking care of the girls, and even with the free medicine from the mysterious hospital program, the bills kept coming. Watching her, Ethan felt torn apart. Olivia was clearly on the verge of collapse, but too stubborn to admit it. The girls, even while ill, could sense how dire things were. "Mr. Hayes." Jessica entered his office with a worried expression. "Ms. Carter's latest test results are in. Her heart condition—" How long until she has a crisis if she keeps pushing like this? Days, maybe hours. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of each second of passive observation. On the monitor, he saw Olivia stumbling around the kitchen, trying to make tea for the girls while clutching her own chest. "Chloe," he heard Mia whisper to her sister when Olivia went to the bathroom. "It's our fault. Mom's getting sicker because she has to take care of us." "It's not our fault," Chloe replied, though her voice was laced with guilt. "It's because we're poor. If we were rich, like that man with the ring." Ethan felt his heart break. His daughters, feverish and ill, blaming themselves for the family's precarious situation. Olivia, fighting a severe heart condition while working herself to the bone. And he, with all his billions, just watching through screens. In the afternoon, things worsened. The girls' fever spiked again, and Olivia could barely stand. When she went to get more water for them, she staggered, dropping the glass, which shattered on the floor. "Mom!" the twins cried in unison, trying to get out of their beds. "Stay in bed," Olivia ordered weakly, leaning against the wall. Her vision blurred, and the pain in her chest had turned into unbearable pressure. In his office, Ethan was already standing, grabbing his coat. "Jessica, cancel all my appointments and call an ambulance for the address in Capitol Hill, now." "Sir, what are you going to do?" Ethan paused at the door, the sapphire ring feeling heavier than ever in his pocket. "No more watching from a distance. They're my family, and they need me." In the Capitol Hill apartment, Olivia slid down the wall to the floor, her breathing becoming more labored by the second. The twins, though sick, struggled to get out of bed to reach her. "Mom!" Chloe cried out. "Mia, we have to call for help." "How?" Mia sobbed. "We don't have a phone, and the neighbor's out of town." Olivia tried to tell them she'd be fine, but no words came. The edges of her vision darkened, her last coherent thought a silent prayer for someone, somewhere, to care for her girls. Somewhere in the city, an ambulance switched on its siren, racing against time, and a black SUV sped through Seattle toward Capitol Hill, its driver gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. The time for silent observation was over. It was time for Ethan Hayes to finally face his past, his decisions, and more importantly, his family. The Capitol Hill building had never seemed so intimidating. Ethan ran up the stairs, his heart hammering in his chest, each step a test of courage. The terrified screams of the twins echoed down the hallway, guiding him to apartment 302. He didn't need to knock, the door was ajar, and the sight that met him froze his blood. Olivia, lying on the floor near the kitchen, the twins, still sick, trying to reach her from their beds. "Mom!" Chloe shouted, her voice raw from the flu. "Please wake up," Mia sobbed. Ethan acted on instinct. In 3 strides he was at Olivia's side, checking her vital signs. Her skin was cold and clammy, her breathing shallow. "Chloe, Mia, stay in bed," he ordered, his voice firm but gentle. "I've already called an ambulance. Everything will be okay." That was when Olivia groaned softly, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment she looked disoriented, then her gaze focused on the face above her, and the world seemed to stop. "Ethan?" The word came out as a broken whisper, carrying 6 years' worth of unspoken emotions. Olivia's eyes, already clouded by pain, filled with tears. "It can't be. You can't." "Mom!" the twins exclaimed in unison. "It's the ring man!" Olivia tried to get up abruptly, but her legs buckled. Ethan caught her before she fell again. "Don't touch me," she tried to shout, but her voice was weak. "You have no right. After all this time." "Olivia, please," Ethan pleaded, still supporting her. "You need to stay calm. Your heart." "How do you know?" Her eyes widened with sudden comprehension. "The anonymous donations, the doctor, the medication. It was you." The distant sound of sirens filled the tense silence that followed. Olivia tried to pull away from Ethan's arms, but another spasm of pain seized her. "Mom!" Mia cried again, trying to get out of bed. "Stay in bed, girls," Ethan ordered gently. "Your mom needs to rest until the ambulance arrives." "Why are you here?" Olivia asked, her voice choked with emotion. "Why now?" "Because our daughters came looking for me one snowy night, trying to sell the ring I gave you." Olivia's face grew even paler. "You know that they're my daughters?" "Yes, Olivia." One look was all it took. My eyes in them, your smile, our... "No," she interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "You don't have that right, not after you left, after you chose your career over... You never told me about the pregnancy." His voice trembled. "Why, Olivia? Why hide something so..." The arrival of the paramedics cut the argument short. Within minutes, everyone was on the way to Swedish Medical Center, Olivia in the ambulance, Ethan following with the twins in his car. "Mr. Ethan?" Chloe called from the back seat, her voice small and scared. "Is our mom going to be okay?" "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to the best hospital in the city." "Why was Mom mad to see you?" Mia asked, coughing. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tighter. How could he explain 6 years of absence to 2 5-year-olds? At the hospital, Olivia was rushed to intensive care. Ethan used his influence to secure the best room, the best doctors. The twins, exhausted and still feverish, finally fell asleep on a sofa bed next to their mother. Hours passed. When Olivia finally woke, she was alone in the room with Ethan, the girls having been taken for tests. "Why did you never tell me?" he asked softly, breaking the heavy silence. Olivia turned her face toward the window, silent tears rolling down. "Do you remember the last time you saw my parents?" Ethan nodded. How could he forget the contempt in their eyes? 2 weeks after you left, I found out I was pregnant. I ran to tell them, thinking a grandchild would change everything." She let out a bitter laugh. "You know what my father said? That it was better I take care of the problem before ruining my life with a child from someone who would never amount to anything." Shock and anger coursed through Ethan like electricity. "But you didn't. Of course not. They were our babies. Ours." Her voice broke. "But they gave me an ultimatum. Either do what they wanted or be disowned, kicked out. So I ran away. I changed my number, my address, started a new life away from them." "Why didn't you come to me?" "I would have come back. I would have given up." "Your dream?" she interrupted. "Ethan, you had just landed that incredible investment. You were about to achieve everything you ever wanted. How could I show up, pregnant, and dump that responsibility on you?" "I had the right to know," he argued. "They're my daughters, too." "And what would you have done? Married me out of obligation? Spent your life resenting me and the girls for holding you back?" "Never," Ethan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I would never be an obstacle, Olivia. Look at me." He waited until she turned her face. All these years, all the success, it's been empty. Something was always missing. "Mom?" a small voice interrupted. Chloe and Mia were back, still pale, but clearly better after receiving medication. "Come here, my little ones," Olivia called softly. "There's something we need to talk about." The girls climbed onto the hospital bed, one on each side of their mother. Ethan watched, his heart aching, as they naturally nestled against Olivia, trusting her completely. "Do you remember when you asked about your dad?" Olivia began gently. The twins nodded. Chloe gave Ethan a curious look, as if she was already figuring it out. "Ethan, the man who bought your ring, he's your father." The silence that followed was deafening. Mia was the first to speak, her wide eyes locked on Ethan. "Is that why you have our eyes? Like ours?" Ethan felt tears slip out. "Yes, sweetheart. Is that why you helped us?" Chloe asked. "No," he answered honestly. "I helped because I saw 2 brave girls trying to help their mother. I only realized afterward that you were my daughters." "But why did you never come before?" Mia asked in a small voice. "Because I didn't know," Ethan explained, glancing at Olivia. "Your mom was very brave and strong, raising you on her own when times were hard. I should have been here." "Are you going away again?" Chloe asked bluntly, her eyes, so much like his, filled with fear and hope. Ethan stepped closer to the bed, kneeling so he was at their level. "Never again. If you and your mom allow me, I want to be part of your life. I want to know everything about you, every story, every—" His voice faltered when Mia, without warning, threw her arms around his neck. Chloe followed a second later. The hug was awkward, with the girls on the hospital bed, but to Ethan it was the most perfect moment of his life. Olivia watched the scene through tear-filled eyes. 6 years of secrets, lonely struggles, countless nights wondering if she had made the right choice, all culminating in this moment. "We still have a lot to talk about," she said softly, after the girls finally released Ethan. He nodded, wiping his own tears. "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for those lost years." "Dad?" Chloe tested the word, making Ethan's heart leap. "You're rich, right? Like in the movies?" Ethan chuckled softly, noticing Olivia's worried look. "Yes, sweetheart, but the greatest wealth I've ever had is right here in this room." "So can we get a dog?" Mia asked hopefully, making everyone laugh. The tension in the room began to ease, slowly, as the girls bombarded Ethan with questions about his life, his likes, his stories. Olivia watched with a complex mix of emotions. There was still so much to resolve, so many wounds to heal. The anger and hurt from 6 years wouldn't vanish overnight. But seeing Ethan with the girls, the way his eyes lit up as he discovered every little detail about them, how he drank in every word like a man starving in a desert. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope. "Olivia," Ethan called softly once the twins finally fell asleep again, exhausted but happy. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a chance to be part of their lives, to help you, to maybe build something new. With time." "We can't go back," she said, her voice trembling. "The past is the past." "But maybe," she hesitated, looking at her daughters sleeping peacefully, "maybe we can build something new, for their sake." Ethan nodded, understanding what she left unsaid. It would be a long road, filled with tough conversations and delicate moments. But looking at Chloe and Mia, his little princesses, brought back to him by a ring on a snowy night, he knew it would be worth every second. In his pocket, the sapphire ring suddenly felt lighter. It was no longer a symbol of regrets and wrong choices, but of redemption and second chances. And maybe one day, when the wounds had healed and new bonds had been forged, he could use it again for its original purpose. For now, he was content to watch his family, yes, his family, sleeping peacefully in the hospital room. The empire he built, the billions he amassed, none of it compared to this moment. At last, Ethan Hayes was home. The hospital room was immersed in the hush of early morning, broken only by the soft beeping of heart monitors. Ethan woke slowly, his neck protesting the night spent in the uncomfortable armchair. For a moment, he felt disoriented. The sterile environment, the smell of disinfectant, the cold morning light filtering through the window. Then his eyes landed on Olivia in the hospital bed, and the reality of the last few days hit him hard. He was a father. The word echoed in his mind like a mantra, impossible to fully grasp. A father of twins, of 2 extraordinary girls who, by some miracle of fate, had found him on a snowy night with a ring that would change all their lives. His thoughts were interrupted by a gentle stirring from the bed. Olivia was waking up, her eyes opening slowly and focusing first on the ceiling, then on him. For a moment her expression was confused, then came recognition, and finally an emotion Ethan couldn't fully decipher. "The girls?" she asked, her voice still husky from sleep. "They're home with Nurse Angela," he replied gently. "They slept well, according to the last text I got." Olivia nodded, carefully adjusting herself in bed. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words, unasked questions. 6 years of stories untold. They started walking at 10 months. Olivia broke the silence suddenly, surprising Ethan. Chloe was first, always the more adventurous. 3 days later, Mia followed, not because she was ready, but because she couldn't stand seeing her sister doing something she couldn't. Ethan leaned forward in the chair, drinking in every word like a parched man. "Tell me more, please." The request came out more vulnerable than he intended, but it worked. Maybe it was the timing, maybe it was the neutral hospital setting, or maybe Olivia was just tired of carrying all these memories alone. She began to speak, and the stories flowed like a river long dammed up. Their first tooth, God, that was quite an adventure. Mia's came in first on a rainy Tuesday. She was so proud, showing that tiny tooth to everyone. Chloe was absolutely outraged. She spent 2 whole days refusing to smile, like she was protesting the injustice of the universe. Ethan could picture it clearly in his mind, an involuntary smile forming on his lips. Their first word was "Mama," of course, Olivia went on, a touch of maternal pride in her voice. But after that, they went in completely different directions. Chloe began babbling nonstop, making sounds only she understood, like she had her own language. Mia, on the other hand, she just observed everything quietly, taking in the world around her. When she finally spoke, it was always something surprisingly thoughtful for such a tiny child. "What are they like at school?" Ethan asked, hungry for more details. "Chloe is our little scientist, asking a million questions and wanting to know how everything works." The other day, she took apart the alarm clock just to see what was inside. Olivia laughed softly at the memory. "Mia is more artistic. She's always drawing, seeing beauty in everything. Last week, she came home so excited because she realized clouds cast different shadows, depending on the time of day." Ethan soaked up every detail, building a mental mosaic of his daughters. Then Olivia said something that took him by surprise. "They both have your way of frowning when they're concentrating. You know, exactly how you did during calculus exams." The first time I noticed, Chloe was trying to tie her shoelaces, and she made that same expression. I almost couldn't breathe. The confession hovered between them, laden with pent-up emotion. Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Why did you never—" he began, but was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Nurse Angela with the twins, already dressed for school in neatly pressed uniforms, though their eyes were still heavy with sleep. "Mom!" they exclaimed in unison, rushing to the bed. Then, almost as an afterthought, but with no less enthusiasm, "Dad!" The word was still new, experimental on their little tongues, but to Ethan it was music. His heart swelled in his chest in a way he had never felt before. "Good morning, my princesses," he smiled, noticing how Chloe still sniffled a bit, and Mia suppressed a small cough. "I think we'll need to skip school today." "What do you think?" Their faces lit up instantly, but Olivia intervened. "Ethan, they can't just miss school like that." "Just for today," he pleaded, and there was something in his eyes, a silent plea for a few more moments with the daughters he had just found, that made Olivia hesitate, then relent. "All right," she sighed, "but only today." The day that followed felt like a strange, wonderful dream, filled with small discoveries and big revelations. Ethan learned that Chloe adored dinosaurs, especially the velociraptor, because it was small but really smart, and that Mia could spend hours talking about different shades of sunset. Yesterday, it was more orange, but the day before, it had some pink shades too. During lunch, ordered from a nearby restaurant known for its homemade food, the questions began. It was as if the girls, realizing they were allowed to be curious, couldn't hold back their thirst to learn more about this father they had only just discovered. "What's your favorite color?" Chloe asked, between bites of pasta. "Blue," Ethan answered promptly, "like the sky on a clear day." "Just like me," Mia exclaimed happily. "Mom, did you know Dad likes blue too?" Olivia only smiled, but Ethan noticed how her eyes softened a bit at the girl's excitement. "Do you have a pet?" Chloe asked next. "No, but I've always wanted a dog." "We do too," the The twins answered in unison, exchanging meaningful looks that made Ethan laugh. "Dad," Chloe started, her voice taking on a more serious tone that was almost comical, coming from a 5-year-old. "Why are you so rich?" "Chloe," Olivia scolded. But Ethan just chuckled. "Because I had an idea for an app, a computer program that helps people see the world in a different way," he explained, trying to keep it simple. "But you know what? All the money in the world doesn't compare to how happy I am that I found you." "But you'll stay rich, right?" Mia asked pragmatically. "Because I really want a kitten." "Mia?" Chloe scolded her sister, perfectly mimicking Olivia's earlier tone, making everyone laugh. Not all moments were light-hearted. Throughout the day, Ethan began to notice subtle patterns in the girls' behavior. How they occasionally glanced at the door as if afraid he might disappear at any moment. How they approached him physically with caution, testing boundaries, checking if he would push them away. Olivia noticed, too. Every time she saw those small signs of insecurity in the twins, a shadow passed over her eyes. Ethan knew they had to talk, set boundaries, define expectations. But for now, he focused on being present, on absorbing every moment. In the afternoon, Chloe decided she needed to show him all the drawings she had done at school. Luckily, Olivia always carried a folder of the girls' work in her bag. Ethan examined each piece of art with genuine attention, asking questions, praising details, memorizing every stroke as if they were priceless treasures. Mia, quieter but equally eager for attention, sat next to him, explaining the story behind each of her sister's drawings, adding her own commentary, and occasionally mentioning how she would have done it differently. It was during one of these explanations that Ethan noticed Mia tilted her head slightly to the side when she was thinking, exactly the way Olivia used to. The gesture was so familiar, so precious in its simplicity, that he felt his eyes fill with tears. When evening came and the girls needed to go home, there was a tense moment. Chloe clung to his leg, initially refusing to let go. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. "I will," Ethan promised, kneeling down to look her in the eye. "And the day after tomorrow, too. And every day after that. I'll never disappear from your life again." "Again?" Mia, who had been watching silently, came closer. "Promise." "I promise," he replied solemnly, holding out his pinky finger for a pinky swear, something he'd learned was very serious in the world of 5-year-olds. After the girls left with Nurse Angela, the room felt heavy with silence. It was time for the conversation they'd avoided all day. "How are we going to do this, Ethan?" Olivia finally asked, her voice exhausted yet firm. "You have your life, your company." "I'm moving back to Seattle," he answered without hesitation. "I've already given instructions to prepare the main office here. The company can be run from anywhere." "No," Olivia cut him off, more sharply than she intended. "You can't just reorganize your whole life like that, suddenly." "Why not?" Ethan came closer to the bed, his voice fervent. "For my daughters? For you? Olivia, look at me. 6 years ago, I chose ambition over our love. It was the biggest mistake of my life, and only now do I truly see how huge that mistake was. I won't make it again. It's not that simple." "No, it's not," he agreed, sitting on the edge of the bed and, in a bold gesture, taking her hand. When she didn't pull away, he continued, "But it doesn't have to be as complicated as we're making it. I'm not asking us to go back to what we were. I'm just asking for a chance to be the father of our daughters, to help you, maybe in time, to rebuild something new." The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of boundaries and discoveries. Ethan rented an apartment in the same neighborhood, large enough for the girls to have their own room when they visited, but not so flashy as to create a stark contrast with the life they were used to. He established a routine of taking the girls to school in the morning, turning each car ride into an opportunity to get to know them better. It was fascinating how each day brought a new discovery. Chloe was definitely a morning person, waking up brimming with energy and plans for the day. Mia, on the other hand, needed at least 20 minutes and a cup of hot chocolate to function properly. And then the teacher said my science project was the best in the class. Chloe chattered one morning, practically bouncing in the back seat. I did a whole experiment about why plants need sunlight. But my drawing won the school contest, Mia added sleepily, not wanting to be left out. I drew our family. That last statement made Ethan nearly lose control of the car. Our family. The concept still felt surreal to him. At night, they set up a routine of video calls to help with homework. It was impressive how Chloe had inherited his ease with numbers, while Mia could spend hours drawing, exactly how Olivia used to doodle on the margins of books during their university days. Their first outings were lessons in patience and discovery. One Sunday at the Woodland Park Zoo revealed that Mia had a deep fear of snakes. "They have no legs, Dad. How is that normal?" While Chloe was fascinated by penguins. "Did you know they can swim up to 25 mmHg?" Olivia initially resisted these family activities, but seeing the genuine happiness of the girls gradually wore down her hesitation. "They need this," she admitted one afternoon at Gasworks Park, watching Ethan push the twins on the swings. "They need a father. They need memories like these." But not everything went smoothly. The first time Ethan had to set a boundary was a significant test for all of them. "But Dad, just one chocolate," Chloe begged before dinner, using her best puppy dog eyes. "Your mom already set the rules about sweets before meals." He remained firm, even though her gaze nearly melted his heart. "We have to respect them." It was a tense moment, his first real experience with parental discipline. To his surprise, Olivia backed him up. "You heard your dad, Chloe. Rules are rules, no matter who set them." It was a decisive moment that Olivia observed carefully from the kitchen. For the first time, she saw Ethan truly acting as a father, not just trying to be the fun friend who made up for lost time with gifts and indulgences. Something shifted inside her at that moment, a tiny crack in the wall of protection she'd built up over the years. The twins also had their moments of confusion and insecurity. During one of the weekly family dinners they had begun hosting, Mia surprised everyone with a question. "If you're our dad, why don't you live with us, like Lisa's dad lives with her?" The silence that fell over the table was thick enough to cut with a knife. Olivia set her utensils aside carefully, thinking through her answer. "Sometimes, sweetheart, parents can love their children very much, even if they live in different houses," she explained with a gentleness that surprised Ethan. "What's important is that your dad is here now, right?" "But is he staying?" Chloe asked, voicing the fear both girls carried. Ethan put down his fork and held out his hands across the table, one for each daughter. "Always. I may not live in the same house, but I'm here to stay. Forever." Ethan's professional life underwent big adjustments. Video conferences were often interrupted by calls from the girls' school, important meetings rescheduled so he could attend class presentations. His executives had to adapt to a CEO who now prioritized dinner time with his daughters over cocktails with investors. "Mr. Hayes," Jessica commented one day, handing him some reports. "I've never seen you so tired. And so happy." It was true. Each day brought new challenges, but also new joys. The first time he managed to do the girls' braids by himself after countless YouTube tutorials and several failed attempts was a personal triumph. When Chloe sought him out first, not Olivia, after a nightmare, he almost cried with emotion. The drawing Mia made for Father's Day at school, depicting the whole family, including him, now hung framed in his office. Olivia watched it all with a complex blend of emotions. She saw how genuinely Ethan tried, how he put the girls above everything else, how he was truly committed to being a good father. Gradually, the barriers she had erected began to show cracks. One night, after the girls were asleep, she found him in the kitchen, looking at old photos of the twins on his phone. "Do you want to see the full albums?" she offered hesitantly. Ethan's eyes lit up. For hours, sitting on the worn-out couch, they revisited moments he had missed. First smiles, first steps, first days of school. Olivia surprised herself by sharing stories, laughing over memories, allowing herself to lower her guard a bit more. "Thank you," he said softly when they were done, late into the night. "For what? For being so strong, for raising them so well, for giving me this chance now." Olivia didn't answer, but something in her eyes softened. Over the following months, a new normal began to take shape. Ethan learned every quirk of his daughters, how Chloe needed her favorite socks to sleep, how Mia would only eat carrots if they were cut into star shapes, how both had different ways of asking for a hug when they were sad. The girls thrived on the shared attention, realizing they didn't need to compete for any parent's love. Olivia, seeing Ethan's consistent effort, started involving him more in decisions about the girls, from school choices to medical issues. It wasn't perfect. There were hard days, moments of doubt, small conflicts over boundaries and responsibilities. Sometimes Ethan found himself mourning the lost years, wondering how life might have been if he'd known about the pregnancy. Sometimes Olivia struggled with memories of the past, fears about the future. But there was also laughter at breakfast, spontaneous hugs, small daily victories that made it all worthwhile. Like when Chloe won the science fair with a project on apps, clearly inspired by her dad, or when Mia painted a family portrait that was displayed in the school hallway. One afternoon, watching the girls play in the new bedroom he had furnished in his apartment, Chloe with her little scientist kit, Mia drawing on a professional easel, Ethan realized something crucial. He was no longer just making up for lost time. He was, at last, simply being a father. And perhaps that, more than anything else, was the real miracle of the snowy night that had changed all their lives. Spring arrived in Seattle, bringing with it renewal. Olivia, after months of proper treatment, finally saw significant improvements in her health. Her medical checkups now brought good news, and she could climb the stairs of her building without difficulty. "Your tests look excellent, Ms. Carter," the cardiologist smiled. "Keep this up, and we'll soon be able to reduce your medication." The twins also blossomed, fully recovered from the flu that had stricken them months before. Chloe resumed her top spot in science, while Mia surprised everyone with a regional art award. The discovery that would change everything happened one spring Saturday afternoon. Olivia had decided to do a bit of spring cleaning, and Ethan was helping, mainly because the girls insisted on showing off their treasures they'd stored away. "Dad, look!" Chloe exclaimed, pulling out a box decorated with stars. "Our baby photos?" But it was Mia who found the crucial item, digging deeper into the closet. "Mom, what's in this box?" Olivia froze when she saw the old metal box in her daughter's hands. Chloe, always curious, had already opened it. "They're letters?" "Letters I wrote to your dad," Olivia admitted softly. Over the years, she never mailed them. After sending the girls to play in their room, Olivia opened the box. Dozens of letters, organized chronologically, told the story of the lost years. The first, written on the night Ethan left. "Dear Ethan, you left today. I should have told you about my suspicion of pregnancy, but your eyes shone so brightly talking about the startup. I took the test as soon as I got home. Positive? I'm carrying a part of you, and you're thousands of miles away, chasing your destiny. How can I tell you now? How can I possibly interfere with your dreams? Love, Olivia." The letter about discovering the twins. "Ethan, they're twins. 2 little lives we created. My parents found out. It was as terrible as I imagined. Dad demanded I take care of it. I ran away. I have a small apartment in Capitol Hill now. I see your name in the news. How can I show up and possibly destroy everything you've built?" Olivia. Their birth. "Dear Ethan, our daughters were born today." Chloe came first, announcing her arrival to the world. Mia followed soon after, silent but alert. "They're perfect. Chloe has your eyes, Mia, your smile. I promised them they'd never lack for love, even if you don't know they exist." Olivia. The passing years. Ethan. Dada. They said that first word today. How do I explain their dad is the man on the cover of Forbes, that he didn't abandon us, he just doesn't know we exist? I turn on the TV to see your interviews. You seem different now, more mature. But when you smile, I still see that boy in the library, scribbling code on napkins. Olivia discovering her illness. Dear Ethan, the doctor says I need to slow down. My heart isn't well. But how? Our daughters need to eat, need a decent life. Chloe is brilliant at science. It's in her blood. Mia has a rare gift for art. I still keep the ring. The girls asked about it. How to explain it represents unrealized dreams. Olivia. The last letter, written weeks before the snowy encounter. Ethan, 5 years. Sometimes I can't believe how much time has passed. I saw you on the news. Aerovision is growing more and more. Did I make the right choice, protecting you, or being selfish? My health is getting worse. The meds are too expensive. The girls notice, no matter how hard I try to hide it. Maybe one day they'll find you on their own. Maybe then you'll know about them. I hope you can forgive me. With eternal love, Olivia. Ethan finished reading with tears in his eyes. Late afternoon silence enveloped the room. Why are you showing me this now? He asked softly. Because you deserve to know everything. Every thought, every fear, every moment lost. Olivia took a shaky breath. And because maybe it's time to stop being afraid. Ethan sat beside her, holding her trembling hands. You protected our daughters the best way you knew. It hurts to have missed so much, but I understand. You've always been the stronger one. I don't feel strong, she whispered. I'm tired of building walls, of keeping distance. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Olivia wasn't expecting anyone. Ethan answered it and froze. An elegant couple stood in the hallway, Dr. Carter and his wife, Olivia's parents. Where is my daughter? Dr. Carter demanded, his voice trembling. Olivia appeared, stunned. Mom? Dad? How? We found out about your illness, Mrs. Carter cut in. Why didn't you come to us? Mom, is someone here? Chloe and Mia peeked down the hallway. The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Carter covered her mouth, tears welling up. Are they our granddaughters? They look so much like, Dr. Carter began. Me, Ethan completed firmly. They're my daughters, too. Olivia pulled the girls protectively into her arms. Chloe, Mia, these are your grandparents. Why didn't you ever come before? Chloe asked innocently. The question hit the couple like a blow. Dr. Carter suddenly looked older. So, may we come in? We have a lot to discuss. While the girls ate pizza, watching TV, the adults gathered in the kitchen. Martha Williams saw us at the hospital, Mrs. Carter explained. Why didn't you reach out, Olivia? Why? Olivia laughed bitterly. Maybe because you kicked me out when I needed you most. We were wrong, Dr. Carter admitted, crying openly. Terribly wrong. We only thought about reputation, about what people would say. We never saw our daughter needed help. And now? Olivia asked wearily. A chance, her mother begged, to know our granddaughters, to fix our mistakes. Do you have any idea what she's been through? Ethan interjected. She worked 2 jobs, battled a severe illness, raised 2 extraordinary girls while you worried about appearances. You're right, Dr. Carter conceded. About everything. We're here asking for forgiveness, a chance to be part of their lives. Mom, Mia interrupted, can we have dessert? The innocence of the request broke the tension. Olivia looked at her daughters, so unaware of the heavy moment. Show your grandparents where we keep the cookies, she said softly. As the girls led their grandparents to the cabinet, Ethan held Olivia's hand. We don't need to decide everything now. We can take it slow, see how the girls feel. Olivia watched her daughters, already chatting happily about cookies and school with their grandparents. They deserve to have grandparents, she decided, but on our terms. No pressure, no judgment on our choices. The letters in the metal box told a story of love, sacrifice, and redemption. Now it was time for a new chapter, one of reconciliation and second chances. It wouldn't be easy. There were many wounds to heal, a lot of trust to rebuild. But seeing her daughters smile with their grandparents, Olivia allowed herself a glimmer of hope. If she and Ethan could reconnect after 6 years, perhaps there was hope for her family as well. And in Ethan's pocket, the sapphire ring that started it all pulsed with new possibilities. Summer arrived in Seattle, bringing with it not only heat, but also subtle, profound changes for the family fate had so unexpectedly reunited. The small Capitol Hill apartment, once a solitary refuge for Olivia and the twins, now buzzed with a different energy on weekends. On one particularly pleasant Sunday morning, Ethan watched from the kitchen as Dr. Carter, with almost comical seriousness, tried to learn the rules of a board game Chloe had invented. The rules seemed to change every 5 minutes, much to the grandfather's confusion, but he persisted with surprising patience. "No, Grandpa," Chloe explained for the 10th time. "You can only move the blue piece after the moon shows up on the dice. But you said it was the sun." "That was before the dragon joined the game," she replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Out on the balcony, Mia was showing her new sketchbook to her grandmother, who was genuinely moved by each drawing. Mrs. Carter had discovered in her quieter granddaughter a natural artist, and now appeared weekly with new art supplies she had stumbled upon at the art store. Olivia approached Ethan, handing him a cup of coffee. "Who would have thought, huh?" she murmured, a faint smile playing on her lips. The last few weeks hadn't been easy. Setting boundaries with Olivia's parents required several frank talks and some tense moments. Ethan vividly remembered one heated argument when Dr. Carter suggested enrolling the twins in an elite private school. "They already have a school," Olivia had said firmly. "One where they're happy, have friends, and teachers who've known them since they were tiny. But with the resources Ethan has now." "It's not about money, Dad. It's about stability, about not uprooting them from a place where they feel safe just because now we can afford something more expensive." Surprisingly, Ethan was the one who most supported this decision. "Our daughters don't need a prestigious school name on their record," he argued. "They need a normal childhood, real friends, authentic experiences." Slowly, the Carters began to understand that their role was not to reshape the life Olivia had built, but to fit respectfully into it. The visits, initially tense and formal, grew more natural. Chloe was the first to really open up to her grandparents, her outgoing nature overcoming any initial weariness. Mia took longer, quietly observing for weeks, before finally showing her grandmother her secret drawing spot on the balcony. "You know what surprises me the most?" Olivia mentioned one evening after everyone had gone. "How they're really trying, not just with the girls, but with me as well." Indeed, Dr. Carter had openly wept upon learning of the financial hardship Olivia faced amid her health struggles. Mrs. Carter spent hours listening to stories of the twins as babies, absorbing every detail of missed milestones, her silent tears speaking louder than words. Meanwhile, Ethan had spent these weeks on a secret mission. The letters Olivia had written over the years inspired him to create something special. Late at night in his apartment, he carefully curated excerpts, memories, and moments that told not just their story, but the future they could still build. The moment he chose for his surprise couldn't have been more perfect. It was the twins' 6th birthday, and the whole family was gathered at Gasworks Park for a picnic celebration. The girls played with other children, their laughter echoing in the sunny afternoon. "Olivia," he called gently, taking her hand. "Want to go for a walk?" They strolled to a nearby cluster of trees where Ethan had prepared a little surprise. Hanging from the lower branches, protected in transparent envelopes, were all the letters she had written over the years. "Ethan, what is this?" "These are our memories," he replied, guiding her among the letters. "Not just the ones we lived together, but the ones you kept all this time." Olivia touched the envelopes with trembling fingers, recognizing her own handwriting, her own words written in moments of solitude and hope. But there's something different here, she noticed, seeing new envelopes mixed in with the old. My answers, Ethan explained. For every letter of yours, I wrote a response. What I would have said if I'd received it, what I feel now, reading it, what I hope for our future. With tears in her eyes, Olivia began reading Ethan's replies. Dear Olivia, if I had received your letter that night, I would have been on the first plane back. No dream, no company, nothing would be worth it without you, without them. But fate had other plans, and maybe we needed these years to grow into who we are today. You were incredibly strong, brave, and loving. You raised our daughters with values no money can buy. Now, if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life being the man you always believed I could be. The final letter hung alone on a lower branch. When Olivia opened it, she found no words but the sapphire ring that had started their journey. And kneeling before her was Ethan, his eyes shining with love and hope. Olivia Carter, he began, his voice shaking with emotion. You wrote to me for 6 years, holding on to every moment, every feeling, every hope. Now I want to spend the rest of my life answering each of those letters with actions, with love, with commitment. Will you marry me? Olivia's yes was barely audible between her sobs, but her embrace said it all. That was when they heard applause and laughter. Everyone had quietly gathered to witness the moment. Finally, Chloe exclaimed, jumping with joy. Does this mean we'll all live together? Mia asked hopefully. Olivia's parents approached, both openly crying. Dr. Carter hugged his daughter and then, to everyone's surprise, extended his hand to Ethan. Take good care of them, he said simply. All of them. Always, Ethan promised, sealing not just his commitment to Olivia, but to the entire family they had built. Epilogue. 6 months later, the new apartment was spacious but not ostentatious, close enough to the girls' school to maintain their routine, yet with enough rooms to accommodate their growing family. The living room walls proudly displayed Mia's drawings alongside Chloe's science awards. Olivia, fully recovered and now working at just one school by choice, coordinated an art project with Mia, while Chloe and Ethan pored over a science experiment at the kitchen table. The sapphire ring shone on her finger, now accompanied by a wedding band. It was no longer a symbol of interrupted dreams, but rather of an extraordinary journey of love, forgiveness, and redemption. The Carters visited regularly for dinner, bringing not only gifts for their granddaughters, but also stories of Olivia's childhood, memories that slowly rebuilt the bridges pride had once burned. Ethan balanced his business and family life masterfully, transforming an entire floor of AeroVision into a model daycare for employees, inspired, of course, by his own experiences. The twins thrived in the multiplied love surrounding them. Chloe was already talking about creating her own apps when I grow up, while Mia dreamed of having her own art gallery with a special science corner for Chloe, so she doesn't feel sad. One quiet night, after tucking the girls in, Olivia found Ethan on the balcony, gazing out at the city. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, hugging him from behind. "How unpredictable life is," he replied, turning to her. 6 years building an empire, thinking I had everything, when in truth my real fortune was here, in a little Capitol Hill apartment. And to think it all started with a ring on a snowy night. "No," Ethan said softly. "It began with your love, your courage, your strength in raising our daughters. The ring was just fate giving us a second chance." Olivia smiled, nestling into his arms. Inside, their daughters slept, safe and sound. Somewhere in the city, her parents were likely planning the next visit. And there, on the balcony of their new home, she and Ethan savored the peace of a love that had survived time, pride, and distance. The sapphire ring captured the city lights, its facets telling a story of loss and reunion, of secrets revealed and bridges rebuilt. a story that proved sometimes destiny has better plans than our own, and that true love always finds its way home.